Happy New Week to everybody out there. Good morning, everyone, as y'all are checking in. Shout yourselves out. Tell me your locations as y'all are checking in. And we will get into the proceedings this morning quickly. It's a funny thing, different camera angles, things look different. So I'm adjusting to one angle, then I look at myself at another angle. We got three different cameras going here. Live on seven different platforms. We are live on Rumble Studio. Good morning, Rumble. We are live on YouTube. Good morning, YouTube. Didn't mean to click on that. Good morning, YouTube. We are live on Facebook. That is confirmed. We are live on LinkedIn. Also confirmed. We are live on LinkedIn. That is confirmed on LinkedIn. Let me check on X. We are live on Instagram. Good morning, Instagram. Live on TikTok. Good morning, TikTok. Shout yourselves out. Tell me your locations as y'all are checking in. Let me make sure that we are good on. Let's see. Make sure that we are good on X. Are we good on X? Yes, we are good on X. Hope everyone's had a great weekend. Let's get into what we need to get into here. And let me see. We're good over there, good over there, good over here. And let's see what we got going on in the who is in here. Please like the live as y'all are coming in on TikTok. Like the live on TikTok. We're at 116 likes. That is ridiculous. Get the likes up, TikTok. We need to be at least 1,000 likes before I even get into what we're getting into here. Like the live on TikTok. All you got to do is tap the screen. Little hearts are going to come up on the bottom right corner there. There's 50 plus people in here on TikTok. Get the likes up, folks. Get the likes up. Don't make me pull a Kevin Samuels. I didn't even start talking yet. I don't want to pull a Kevin Samuels on y'all. But I will pull a Kevin Samuels. So y'all, those of you who don't know what that means I'm going to stop talking and I'll make people like the live before I keep going. So please keep liking the live on TikTok. We need to be at 1,000 likes before I even start doing anything. Annie AFF, good morning. Congrats on the first comment. Renee, checking in from Greenville, North Carolina. Good morning, Renee. Shout out to North Carolina. Annie from Kentucky, good morning. Courtney, good morning to you. Like the live, everybody. We're not even at 1,000 likes yet on TikTok. What are y'all doing? Cassandra Fountai 5, good morning to you. Cassandra checking in from Mississippi. Shout out to Mississippi. Dwayne Mitchell. Detroit is in the building. Shout out to Detroit. Shout yourselves out. Tell me your locations as y'all are checking in. Marky Man, good morning to you. As y'all are coming in on TikTok, like the live, like the live, like the live, like the live. Tell me your locations if you wish on other apps. Let's get into the topic here today. Let me get my timer set. I didn't set my timer yet. We are at, what time is it? All right, so we got, no, it's too many minutes. Let me do this again. I'm getting my timer set. Shout yourselves out. Tell me your locations as you are checking in, and we're going to get started in a moment. Here we go. All right, so we're good on time now. July 22nd. This was last week, so about 6 days ago. I thought it was less than that. It feels like it was less than that. Wrestling icon Hulk Hogan passed away at the age of 71. I think this became more news on maybe on the 23rd. Then everybody was talking about it. There were some thought pieces, think pieces. Actually, we can't even call these think pieces. It was some people just coming out with some rhetoric. I can't even call these think pieces. The think pieces require somebody actually thinking and doing some real work and real journalism or writing, which is not what we got. But we got some think pieces of people coming out. And of course, when I first heard that he had passed away, I remember Hulk Hogan from way back in the day. We're talking like the maybe late 80s, early 90s, when Hulk was wrestling with WWF. And this is the Ultimate Warrior, Andre the Giant days that I would watch wrestling. This is before I even knew wrestling was fake. I thought it was actually, they were actually really wrestling. This is before I knew anything about the wrestling game. That's when I used to watch Hulk Hogan. But as he evolved and got into, there were different wrestling leagues, and I stopped paying attention to it probably by the time I got to about, who knows, maybe 10 years old or so. So I remember Hulk Hogan from back then, and this guy's a legend, probably the most legendary. I think Hulk Hogan might be the most famous wrestler of all time. I think it might be fair to say that. He's the most famous wrestler of all time, right? And then next to that, you might have Andre the Giant. I'm much more identified with Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. And then later on, you had maybe the Triple H's and Undertakers, but I think Hulk Hogan is still bigger than all of them. I think Hulk Hogan is the most famous wrestler in quote unquote wrestling, and even amongst real wrestlers, Hulk Hogan is the most famous. So many people honored his legacy in the wrestling world. A lot of the conversation shifted to this private recording, which came out years ago, in which Hulk Hogan had used the N-word. I believe he was talking to his daughter, and it resurfaced around 2015. And when that video came out in 2015, or audio, it was audio of him. I believe he was talking to his daughter because his daughter was messing around with some black guys that she was dating, and Hulk Hogan was basically saying to her, "You don't want to be messing with black guys, these kind of black guys. You at least get one of these 8-foot tall black guys who plays basketball." And it was kind of like saying it in a positive way, but of course he's using the N-word, and he's a white guy, so people took it in a negative way. And people are saying that Hulk Hogan is racist because of that. When that audio came out, Hulk Hogan basically got himself canceled. So he lost business partnerships. He got blacklisted from wrestling for a while. And that was in like 2015. So 10 years later, he kind of somewhat in some way rebuilt his reputation. He was older, so he wasn't wrestling anymore. He went through that trial. For those who don't remember or don't know about it, he went through this trial with Gawker Media. Gawker had Deadspin and many other publications. They had put out a video that they had found of Hulk Hogan having intercourse with one of his friend's wives. And the friend's wife had kind of asked him to do it, and she was interested in doing it, and he did it. And that video wasn't supposed to come out. And Hulk Hogan, through this guy named Peter Thiel, basically had the money. Peter Thiel is one of the guys that used to work with Elon Musk and basically created this company called PayPal. They both made a lot of their initial money from PayPal. Irma V, thank you for that gift as usual. Thanks for being here consistently. Please keep liking the live over here on TikTok. Peter Thiel had an issue with Gawker Media, and his issue with Gawker Media was that Gawker had outed Peter Thiel as a homosexual years earlier, and Peter Thiel was mad at them for doing that. He couldn't really do anything to them about it, but he was mad at them for doing it. So he was looking for anything that he could use to get back at them. So when he found out about the Hulk Hogan tape coming out, he knew that Hulk Hogan didn't have the money to finance a legal fight against Gawker Media. Gawker Media has a lot of money and a lot of lawyers. Peter Thiel funded the lawsuit that Hulk Hogan filed against Gawker, and Hulk Hogan ended up winning that lawsuit. It essentially bankrupted Gawker and basically put those guys out of business. This was years ago. Ryan Halliday is an author who wrote a book about this whole thing. I believe that book was called Conspiracy. I read that book. I just don't remember the title of the book. But the book laid out this whole thing. And the entire time that Hulk Hogan's lawsuit was being financed by a person that Hulk Hogan didn't even know. It was only after the trial, when Hulk Hogan won, that Peter Thiel allowed himself to be revealed as the person who was financing the entire case. It was made for a story in and of itself. A lot of people don't know about all this. But Hulk Hogan got a good amount of money just off of that. And it kind of vindicated him in several ways, in that, all right, now I'm not out of the game. I still got money. I'm still known, etc. It was a way of vindication, I guess, for a lack of a better term. On top of the fact that a lot of people didn't like Gawker Media and the way that they went about doing their business for many different reasons. So they went and got at Gawker for that. But a lot of people are still mad at Hulk Hogan over this allegedly racist things. So after he passed away last week, a lot of content creators, race commentators, I call race hustlers, and online personalities, especially black folks, seized on this moment to paint his entire legacy through the lens of racism. So people are basically saying Hulk Hogan, maybe he was a legend in wrestling, fine, but because of this racist thing that came out later on after he was a legend in wrestling, that means that his entire legacy should be stained with the label of being a racist. And it doesn't matter what else he did in wrestling. Doesn't matter what he did for fans. Doesn't matter what fondness anybody holds in their heart for him being this legendary wrestler from back in the day. The only thing anybody should know or remember about Hulk Hogan is that he was a racist because of this tape that came out. My position on this is less about Hulk Hogan himself and more about these race hustlers. You heard me talk about these people many times. They are opportunists. That's one thing we can say about them. That's not positive or negative, just a reality. They are opportunists that look for any opportunity to turn a conversation about race, especially if, not especially, but this is almost every single time, the conversation is somehow painting the black person as the victim of some form of quote unquote racism. And there is some white person for whatever reason, they have a reason to go against this person. For those who don't know, those who don't pay attention to Hulk Hogan news, I don't, but this is something I know to be true, that Hulk Hogan gave a rousing and very well-received speech at a Donald Trump rally in 2024. about a year ago, Hulk Hogan gave a speech at a Trump event. And Hulk Hogan did his signature thing, was ripping the shirt off and getting all animated and excited, and the crowd went wild. Hulk Hogan is clearly on the political right, or he was on the political right, and a MAGA supporter. And I'll tell you all up front, I won't even bury the lead. The reason why so many race hustlers jumped on attacking Hulk Hogan after his death last week is not because of that tape that came out 10 or so years ago. It's not because Hulk Hogan was allegedly a racist. What they're really mad about is that the tape came out and that Hulk Hogan was allegedly a racist and Hulk Hogan stood next to Donald Trump. That's what they're really mad about. Real reason so many race hustlers want to attack Donald Trump when he passed away, because it's not Donald Trump, Hulk Hogan, when he passed away, is because Hulk Hogan was a supporter of MAGA and a supporter of Donald Trump. And since Donald Trump actually won the election, then there's nothing else they can do about that. So what they had to do is try to stain anybody who stands next to him as soon as they can find a toehold to use. Now, had Donald Trump lost the 2024 election and Hulk Hogan passed away last week as he did, those same people who were trying to attack Hulk Hogan in a seriously negative way, attack his legacy in a seriously negative way, you know what they would have been doing instead this past week? They would have been trying to ridicule Hulk Hogan. Well, look at you. You ended up passing away anyway, and you were a racist, and you stood next to a loser in Donald Trump. But since Donald Trump won, they got to attack him in a more positive way. But it would be the same thing. They would just be using ridicule had Trump not won the election in 2024. Keep liking the live over there on TikTok. We're at 6,000 likes. Let's get up to 10,000 likes, please. 10,000 likes. So the argument that people are making is that the words that he said in that audio, it permanently disqualifies him from any form of respect, praise, or reverence. And there's something I saw somebody say on X a couple days ago. They were saying, it was a black person, race hustling, and they were saying, well, a lot of people, there are black people out there saying, well, I won't say anything negative about Hulk Hogan because I remember him from my childhood and I was a fan of him as a wrestler, so I'm not going to say anything negative about him now. And that person was saying, well, you're saying that as if, he was your friend, like he was giving you money or paying your bills. All he was a person that you watched on TV. I said, okay, if that's the frame that we're using, I'm completely okay with that frame. We're using that frame, apply that same thing to Oprah Winfrey, Beyonce, Jay-Z, and anybody else that is a celebrity, whether you're talking about them positively or negatively. If you say you can't be having any fond memories or positive thoughts about a person who you don't really know because they're a celebrity and you only watch them on TV, okay, then apply that to Beyonce. You know Beyonce? She ever given you some money? You ever shook her hand? Do you know Jay-Z? Do you know Drake? Do you know Kendrick Lamar? Do you know your favorite basketball or football player? You don't know any of these people. So if black people, we're playing this game of you can't say something negative about a person or anything positive about a person either, and you can't defend them simply because you only know them through a screen and you don't actually know them and you have no real personal, real life connection to the person, then I will be 100% fine with all black people holding themselves to that standard when it comes to your favorite celebrities, positive or negative. It's not, I won't say something negative about them. How about let's just not have any affinity for a person who you don't actually know in your real life? Because if there's one group in America that has a big problem with this idolization of celebrity, it ain't white people, it ain't Latin people, it ain't Asian people, it's black people. So if we want to play that game, I'm 100% open to that game. But that's not even the main point here today. But I'm sure we'll come back to that. So many people are using this, as I said, as a race baiting opportunity, the race hustlers, to get content. And we all create content for clout, using it for faux moral virtue signaling. It's basically showing everybody, look how good of a person I am because I'm going to attack this guy and call him a racist after he passed away. These people are simply using this for attention grabbing, and attention is part of the game here. It's another example of outrage theater, basically trying to erase a human life because of one moment that people are trying to pin that person's whole life on. And several things that need to be said about this, so I'll come back to in a second. So first of all, on TikTok, get the likes up. We're not even at 10,000 likes. We need to be at 12,000 before I get into my material. I'm going to give my introduction, but we need to be at 12,000 likes before I get into my content over on TikTok. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day, former 9-year pro athlete, author of 41 books. I run this company called Work on Your Game Incorporated. What we do here is we help high-level performers, teams, entrepreneurs, and businesses systematize discipline, performance, and accountability. We have an entire system that helps people do that. You can learn more about that by going to the links in my profile or the links in my bio. Get the likes up on TikTok. We're at 11,000. We need 1,000 more before I continue and we get into these points here today. So this whole thing about making a person's entire life come down to one moment is a very easy thing to say when you're watching from the outside looking in. Get the likes up, TikTok. Thank you for getting us to 12,000. Keep going. Please don't get lazy. Don't get complacent over there on TikTok. If we are going to take somebody's entire life and boil it down to one moment, then that means we got to do it to everybody. You can't pick and choose who to do that to. And it's very easy to do it when you're the person on the outside looking in, i.e. you're not a famous person who doesn't have cameras on you every time you step out of your house. Or if you walk through the mall, nobody knows who you are. It's very easy to say we're going to boil another person's entire life down to one thing because nobody's going to do that to you because most people don't even know who you are. An average person who has never met you has no opinion on you because they don't even know that you exist. If you pass away, they wouldn't even know that you died. But when a famous person has something happen, everybody knows about it, even people who they have never met, and everyone has an opinion. So I don't like this whole concept of grandstanding. We're going to judge a person's entire life on one incident. If you're not famous enough to have it happen to you, it's very easy to use that against another person. It's grandstanding. So I'm not a fan of this concept at all. So people who have defended Hulk Hogan, I guess you could say I'm somewhat defending him, even though I'm really not. What I'm really doing is attacking the race hustling. But let's just say you want to call what I'm doing defending Hulk Hogan. Okay. Some say that his career of connecting with fans, promoting wrestling and charity, reinventing himself should all stand as the core of his legacy, not a single regrettable incident. I would say, if you ask me, do I agree with that concept? I would say yes. You can't take a person's whole life of 71 years and boil it down to however long that conversation was. Say it was 10 minutes or 2 minutes or 30 seconds. You can't boil a person's entire life down to 30 seconds. Now, there are people out there who are not going to change their mind about Hulk Hogan, regardless of what I or anybody else says. Fair enough. But what did I just say? If we're going to do that, then let's go get some people who want to make you look bad and let them dig through your entire life, find something that makes you look bad and use it against you. I mean, we could play that game. I don't think most people who are doing this virtue signaling really want to play that game. Because if we really played that game and we dug into everybody's background, as the saying goes, he without sin shall cast the first stone. Nobody will be qualified. Everybody would be disqualified if we wanted to play that game. So those of you who are not world famous and you don't have people who never met you having an opinion on you, be careful in throwing this out there, and also just check yourself. Because if the world's not checking for you or looking for anything to make you look bad, that doesn't mean you don't have anything. It just means nobody's checking. If you took 1,000 people, forget about millions. Hulk Hogan is known by millions of people. Let's just say that 1,000 people all decided they had a negative opinion about you personally. And they decided that over the next 72 hours, they're going to comb through everything they could possibly find about you and around you to try to find some negative stuff to say about you. And they're going to put it out to the world and everybody's going to read it and see it and have an opinion on it. What would they find? If they wanted to, let's just say 1,000 people, not a million people, just 1,000 people. And they were looking for a way to make you look bad. What would they find? And what could they do with it? And how could they frame you? And how would you deal with that? Most of you wouldn't even be able to sleep or eat or do anything. It would drive you crazy. But just 1,000 people looking for dirt on you. So it's very easy to judge another person from the outside looking in again when you ain't in the position that they're in. Now, critics, on the other hand, people who are not fans of Hulk Hogan, people who want to go against him, they say that using a racial slur in that conversation, it reflects his character and it reflects deep flaws in his character, and that any credibility on race issues cannot be redeemed by later contributions. So anything he did in the past or in the future that possibly helped black people or was positive towards black people doesn't undo the fact that this guy has some deep character flaws and he has no credibility simply because of what he said in that video. I say, okay, if we're going to play this game, black people, here we go again. Here it is, that people refer to you the way that you refer to yourself. All right, where in the current world, let's just say in the last 25 years, where do people get the N-word from? If someone is not black and they're using the N-word, where are they hearing it? Where are they getting it from? Where are they seeing the commonality of its use? All of us know the answer to the question. It's not from slavery times. Again, I'm saying the last 25 years. Let's just say from the year 2000 to now. If you hear anyone using the N-word, who's using it? You see anyone throwing around the N-word consistently and using it in a very healthy way. Not healthy like positive, but healthy, and they use it a lot and they seem to have no problem with the word coming out of their mouth. Who's doing it? Where's it coming from? It's not coming from white people. It's not coming from racists. It's coming from black people. We're using it. And I've said this many times before. I'm going to say it again here today. I'll probably say it again today after I say it right now. is that over the last 25, we go even further back. Let's say 35 years from when gangster rap came out to now. Let's just say 35 years. Black people had taken the N-word, we packaged it up, we have monetized it, i.e. we put a price tag on it, and we have sold it and promoted it and marketed it, not only to each other, but also to people of other races. We have done this with a smile on our faces. We've done it while celebrating the people who do it, while worshiping, praising, defending, and idolizing the people who made a ton of money through its use, and getting mad if someone was to come out and challenge it, especially a black person like I'm doing right now, and throwing racist at any person who's white who comes out and says something about it, which is why most white people don't say these things, which is why people like myself had to say it. And then as soon as a person who is not black throws out the N-word, even if they're using it with the ER instead of the A, people go get up in arms like they can't believe that somebody will let that word come out of their mouths. But you're dancing to the music of a person who's saying it 50 times on their album, 50 times, 500 times on their album, depending on who you listen to. So how all of a sudden is it's some tragedy that somebody used the N-word? You see, the thing is, if you're going to hold people to a standard and to a standard of accountability through use of a certain term, you got to hold that standard all the time. Standards are not flexible. There's no such thing as a flexible standard. That's an oxymoron. If you have a standard, you have a standard. There's a scientific concept called entropy. Many of you are probably not familiar with it, but I'll explain it and you'll understand it. Scientific concept of entropy explains that in humanity, in the world itself, things are always moving towards higher levels of disorder and chaos. Disorder and chaos is the natural progression of humanity. Meaning, if you do absolutely nothing to your lawn, you do absolutely nothing to a group, you do absolutely nothing as a person, the natural progression of your life is that you will be more disorderly and more chaotic by trying. You only have to try. Disorder and chaos is the natural progression of being a human being. What does that mean? That means that if you just do nothing for the rest of your life, you're going to get worse. That's what it means. That's a scientific law, by the way. This is not an idea. It's not something that I made up. I wish I made it up because I would take credit for it, but I didn't make it up. The only way that you stave off the natural decay, the natural degression and devaluing, for lack of a better term, of a human being or any human system, even anything living, any living thing, animals as well, is that you have to have standards, parameters, and rules in place that keep the chaos on the outside. You want to see an example of this? I'll give an example that all of you are familiar with. Most of you who are listening to this, if you're awake already, up and dressed, you have probably brushed your teeth this morning. I'm guessing most of you brushed your teeth this morning. Now, why do you brush your teeth? If you didn't brush your teeth, it's not like they would all just fall out and you couldn't chew food anymore. Why do you brush your teeth? You brush your teeth because brushing your teeth is a way of keeping disorder and chaos from overcoming your gums and your teeth. You understand? That's the reason why you brush your teeth every day. Some of you twice a day. Hopefully some of you floss. All right, you should be doing all of those things. Brush your teeth twice a day and floss. Take my word for it. I'm not a dentist. Take my word for it. Why do you do this? Why? Because it staves off disorder, chaos, and decay from occurring with your teeth. Why do you exercise? Same thing with your body. Why do you read books or listen or read things that may mentally challenge you? Because it's the same thing with your mind. Why do you cut your grass? Same thing with your lawn. Why do you exercise your pets? You feed them, but you take them out for a walk. Why do you do that? Same thing with them. Because if you do absolutely nothing, you're naturally going to get worse. That's the law of entropy. Only way you keep getting worse, you hold it off as long as you can, because eventually everybody is going to, time is going to beat you. Father Time is undefeated, as they said. But the way somebody can be a certain age but look young or feel young compared to other people who are the same age is why? Because their standards, their parameters, their disciplines are holding off the natural disorder and chaos and natural decay that is going to happen to everybody. So any of you know somebody who's like 50 years old, but they seem young, or they're 40 years old, but they look younger? Any of you know anybody who fits that description? Of course you do. You know anybody who's mentally, you look at somebody like, look at our last two presidents, our current president, our previous president. They're both around the same age. They're both around 80. I know one is a little bit older, but both of our last two presidents are around the age of 80. Look at one of them, look at the other one. What's the difference? There's something that our current president does or something about him as a person that allows him mentally to stay as sharp as he is, even at that advanced age, where there are people who are 15 years younger than him who don't have that type of mental acuity even though he still has it. What's the difference? I don't know exactly what he's doing, but you understand what I'm saying here is that two people around the same age can have completely different. They can be in completely different places in terms of certain aspects of their lives based on whatever they're doing that either allows them to move into chaos and disorder faster or they stave it off and it happens slower. Just how life goes. Now, what does that have to do with anything that I'm talking about right here? It has to do with it in this sense that black folks, if we want to get all indignant and righteous about the N-word, fine. I'm not mad at you if you want to do it. You want to get indignant and righteous about the N-word, cool, but don't pick and choose when you want to get indignant about it. I do not buy into this argument, and I'm sure there's some people making this argument right now in the comments, and I will get to the comments in a moment. I do not buy into this argument that because the N-word is talking about black people, that means that black people can just throw it around freely and then gatekeep who uses it. And let me tell you why you can't do that. Let me tell you why black people cannot gatekeep the use of the N-word. The reason we cannot gatekeep the use of the N-word is because our favorite entertainers have packaged, marketed, and sold the N-word to everybody, and we celebrate them and defend them and lionize them and idolize them because of the money that they make. Well, first of all, who's paying them? It ain't black people. Who owns the companies that they make music for? They ain't black people. Who is promoting and marketing the music after they go record it in the studio saying N-word, 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 N-word? Who is going and marketing and promoting that music to get it sold? That ain't black people. And who are they selling it to? Most of their sales ain't coming from black people. So they are taking this word and selling it to people who are not within our culture. And you are happy that that person made X amount of dollars. If I was to mention some rappers right now and start criticizing them, there's a bunch of people who would be hearing this who would attack me because I'm saying something that you don't like about your favorite rapper. And you're defending them. Why are you defending them? You don't know them. You never shook their hand. You don't know them from anywhere. They never helped you out with anything. They don't live in your neighborhood. They never walked you to school when you were a kid. They wouldn't help you out if something happened to you. They couldn't do anything for you, but you defend them because you're a fan of them. And why are you a fan of them? You're a fan of them because of their success. Or what is their success? Usually it's because they're popular, because they make money, allegedly. And how they get popular, how they make money? By taking that N-word and selling it to people who are not black. So then when someone who's not black uses the N-word, all of a sudden you're offended. How does that make sense? How does that make sense? And I say this to be clear. I listen to the music too. I was working out this morning. Headphones in. I was listening to music that I have heard that word so many times in music that I don't even notice it. I was listening to music today, and I'm sure the word got thrown out a whole bunch of times. I didn't even notice it. I'm desensitized to hearing the N-word out of the mouth of a black person. I'm completely desensitized. If I was to listen to it, let's say I was in the car driving, and I got my mom in the car with me, I would notice the N-word because I know that she's hearing it. So I probably wouldn't even play that music. But if I'm riding by myself or I'm riding with somebody in my peer group, I don't even notice the word. I don't even know. I'm completely desensitized to it because I've heard it so many times over the last 35 years that it's normal. So I get black people. And listen, if I walk out in the street and I walk past two white people and one of them throws the N-word out, am I going to notice that? Yes, I'm going to notice it. Am I going to respond to that? Yes, I am going to respond to it. At the same time, I'm not going to go, let's just say I hear that some white person, whoever, name some known white person, a video comes out of them using the N-word. I would say to them, let's say if I was just talking to that person, if Hulk Hogan was still alive today, he said, Dre, what do you think about that audio of me using the N-word? I would say, Hulk, that's a bad look for you because we notice this whole game is about optics. You know that. You're a brand. So you know everything's about optics, how it looks, how it sounds, and how people receive it. It's not about what's logically true. What I just explained was logic. Logic doesn't matter when we're comparing optics. Optically, that was a bad look for Hulk Hogan. That's why he got essentially canceled on many levels. He lost a lot of brand deals, sponsorships, endorsements, and he got publicly stained for the fact that he used that word. And he knows that he probably, the conversation was a private conversation. I believe it was his daughter or somebody who recorded it and put it out. I don't know because they were mad at him, whatever. It's still a bad look no matter how it happened. That's a bad look for Hulk Hogan. And I would tell him that to his face. That was a bad look that happened. If he asked me, he probably already knows it's a bad look. However, at the same time, as a black person, if I heard about it and I didn't know Hulk Hogan and I did hear about it and I don't know Hulk Hogan, I'm not getting all worked up about that because how I'm getting worked up about that, but I don't care when Jay-Z uses it 1,000 times on his own album and sells it to white people. And then a bunch of black people are fans of his because Jay-Z got money. And where do you get the money from? Again, Who sold it to him? I mean, who'd he sell it to? Excuse me. Who's paying him? Who's distributing his albums? That ain't black people. That ain't no black business. So I don't like this game that black people like to play. Like, oh well, we own the N word. No, we don't. We own shit. We don't own the N word. Nobody owns a word. So I don't buy into that either. So critics saying that he can't be redeemed because he said this one thing, and black people claiming this righteous indignation over him using the word, miss me. You use that on some white folks. You go to some white people and tell them how upset you are of Hulk Hogan. Don't bring that shit over here. Y'all know better. All black people I'm talking to, y'all know better. And we know in our communities, nobody bats an eyelash when the word gets thrown out all the time. So don't all of a sudden act like this is some tragedy because a white person said it, even if they were using the ER on the end, whatever. All right, everybody understands. Because we don't uphold the standard, the parameters in our own community, you can't go get mad when disorder and chaos seem to be tossed around by other people. Because again, we showed it to them. We showed it to them. We showed them that this is okay. We showed them that we call each other the N-word. So if everybody calls me Dre, if I'm walking around a room and a bunch of people keep saying, hey, Dre, how you doing? Good to see you. Dre, everybody keeps calling me Dre. Person who doesn't know me might walk up to me and say, well, they're going to assume that my name is Dre. Why? Because everybody else is calling me that, and I seem to be responding to it. So if we're calling each other the N-word and we're responding to it in what seems to be a positive way, and then a white person, they go use the N-word, okay, well, obviously, it's normalized. We normalize it. This is what it is. And again, it's been 35 years, folks. It's been probably longer than that. We normalize this. Ain't nothing to get mad about now. Now, supporters say that Hulk Hogan apologized about the N-word thing. He took accountability. He worked to make amends, showed growth over time. I'm sure he did. I don't know the details of that, but I'm sure he did. A famous white person gets caught on tape using the N-word. Of course, they got to go on the apology tour. I'm sure he did that 10 years ago. So opponents say that celebrity apologies are often performative. They fail to erase the damage done or meaningfully address broader systemic harm. See, this is the virtue signaling right here. This is the virtue signaling. They say that a celebrity apology is often performative. Is that true? Yes, because it's optics. And when you're a celebrity, you got to do things sometimes for the optics, not because you actually believe it or your heart is in it. They say that erases the damage done. Or no damage was done. When that Hulk Hogan audio came out of him saying the N-word, there was no damage. No one was injured. Nobody got hurt. There's no damage done. All right, this is nonsense virtue signaling that race hustlers use to try to weaponize guilt and shame and black people playing victim in order to basically get white people to capitulate and bow to whatever the black person wants to say in a moment. This is nonsense. And there's a bunch of black people who do this literally for a living. I call these people race hustlers. That's capital R, capital H, race hustlers. This is their whole business, is weaponizing the victim mentality of black people and letting white people know about it and then getting white people to pay them money in exchange. And then other black people see it and they get excited because they're like, well, that's all I got to do. Okay, let me get in the game. All right, let me go use that. Let me go use that at school. Let me go use that in class. Let me go use that at my local community meeting. Let me go use that at the school district meeting. Let me go use that with all my white friends. And it works because there's a bunch of white people who don't have the balls to say to a black person what I just explained for the last 15 minutes. And I understand why a lot of white people don't want to do it, because as soon as you do it, you're going to get labeled a racist. See, they can't call me a racist because I'm black. If I was white saying this, there'd be people attacking me. They probably would have got my live stream banned on TikTok if I was white saying the same things that I'm saying right now. Because I'm black, I can get away with it, at least to a point. But if I was white, no way I could talk like this. I couldn't have a job. What could I do for a living if I was white saying these things? Not much. I would have to be as a handful of people who do it. Ain't that many. So this whole damage done, there's no damage. All right, so miss me with the verbal violence thing. I don't buy into that. I don't buy into this concept that words are weapons and that if somebody says something, there's harm done to you. This whole concept of harm and verbal violence and damage was done by words. I'm from I guess you could say where I'm from is the old school. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Words don't mean anything to me. Actually, they do mean something, but not in the way that I would say, oh, you damaged me because something that you said. Now, you can damage a relationship with something that you say. You can be held accountable for something that you say, but never am I going to say you damaged me or you did harm to me because of words that you said. Now, if your words lead to actions, that's a different story. But just something that you said is nothing that you could possibly say that I'm going to say that was damage to me or it hurt me or it did harm to me. And no, this is all nonsense. And then they also say that Hulk Hogan's apology did not address broader systemic harm. Okay, this is more race hustler language. Broader systemic harm. What the hell does that even mean? Systemic harm? I'm just not a fan of this term harm. People just throw these words out there. And again, they used to get laughed out of the room. 15 years ago, 20 years ago, somebody came in the room saying that the words that you said did damage to me or us, or that there is harm that was done to us because of something that you said. We would laugh at them and say, we would use some language that I'm not even going to say here. TikTok's AI monitors are kind of sensitive, but there's some language that I would use. Sit your B word, F word, A word down, something along those lines. Y'all get what I'm saying? So something like that. So this whole concept of you harmed me, move on. Fans say that focusing only on racial controversy erases decades of influence in pop culture, media, and philanthropy, oversimplifying his impact. That's exactly what it's doing. I already explained that. Now, advocates believe that ignoring or minimizing the racist incident sends a message that fame and popularity excuse unacceptable behavior. I say, you goddamn right it does. I 100% agree. I agree this is true. Let me say that again. People are saying that if you ignore or minimize something that a famous person does that maybe is not that great, they're basically saying that fame and popularity can excuse unacceptable behavior. I say, yes, that is 100% true. What did we just talk about a month ago? The Diddy case. If Diddy beats this case, well, the case has already been adjudicated, but let's say Diddy doesn't get that much time in jail, in prison. And he comes out of jail later on this year, and he comes home. Are there people out there who are going to be celebrating the fact that Diddy came home from jail? Absolutely. They're going to celebrate that he came home from jail, regardless of the charges. Are there people going to celebrate Diddy if he comes out and does another show at some point? He's going to do another show, another performance. He's going to be on Ellen or The View or a show like that. Are people going to celebrate him and clap for him when he comes out? Absolutely they are. Is it because, despite the charges against him, because he's famous and popular, is that the reason? Yes. Yes, that's the reason. So fame and popularity, can they excuse unacceptable behavior? Yes, they can. And they do all the time. They do it every day. Fame and popularity excuse behavior that people would otherwise deem unacceptable. At the same time, we got to put this in there, is that what people deem unacceptable is often people are very selective about this. This is what we call virtue signaling. For those of you who know what that means, virtue signaling is when someone makes a show out of letting you know that they're either doing the right thing or that they're condemning the quote unquote wrong thing. And as often they're doing it as a show. So going at somebody like Diddy because he got these charges, okay, but if you knew about somebody doing that maybe on a more private level, or it wasn't a public thing, or there was no sympathy or applause to be gained on the internet from making a show about it, you wouldn't be talking about it at all. Most people just follow the crowd. I call it the 95% rule. 95% of people just do what the crowd is doing. Whatever the crowd's saying, they just follow that. That's why you got to be very careful, especially if you ever become a public figure, of getting excited about anything that the general public is saying about you, because most people are just following what they see everybody else saying. Most people don't think for themselves. So many people see the renewed focus on race as clickbait, social media content making, saying it distracts from genuine legacy reflection. And of course that's the case. We all know that this is what's happening. We ain't got to talk about that. Now, others argue that raising race concerns after his death is necessary to hold culture and institutions accountable regardless of timing. Here's another word that it starts to annoy me when people throw it out in certain contexts. Accountable. Accountability and accountable. So I was on X yesterday, and there was some random person in one of my replies saying, oh, well, we as a community, because when I left that comment about, well, people want to get righteous about Hulk Hogan, but y'all don't do that when it comes to your favorite rapper getting attacked. Nobody, y'all go defend your favorite rapper because you like the rapper, but you don't know the rapper. You don't have any personal connections to this person, but you defend him as if it's you. People get mad. Kobe Bryant. I said something about Kobe Bryant, and there was a lot of men getting mad at me as if, like, dude, who are you? His son? Are you related to him? Are you kin to Kobe Bryant? You don't even know this dude. You just watched him on TV play basketball. You getting mad at me like I said something about you. I didn't say anything about you. I didn't say your name. I said Kobe. Why you getting mad? And people do this all the time when it comes to celebrities, especially black people. But somebody was saying, well, you can't defend Hulk Hogan because you're a fan of his. Okay, well, say that same thing to people who defend rappers and athletes. Say that same thing to people who are fans of LeBron James. they get righteous about LeBron as if they are LeBron. Like, yo, you ain't LeBron. You're just a fan watching on TV. So people are saying this accountability thing. And this person was leaving a comment and they were saying, well, we held Puff accountable for what he did. I said, we didn't do a damn thing. What did we do? We didn't do anything. You didn't hold Puff accountable. I didn't hold Puff accountable. No person who's a fan listening to music or watching TV did anything to hold Puff accountable. All you did was listen to what was happening in the court case and leave a comment on the damn internet. You didn't do a damn thing. A lot of people, and this is to a broader discussion, but there's a lot of everyday people who have no real impact on anything that matters in life. They like to believe that saying something on the internet is like some form of action, right? Like you're actually doing something, having real impact because you made a comment on the internet about Puff. So Puff gets this charge, you get on the internet and you start trashing him on your Facebook page. That's not holding him accountable. What he got to do because you said that? Nothing. So this woman was saying we held Puff accountable. No, we didn't do a damn thing. You didn't do anything. All you did was follow shit on the internet and make comments. What'd you do? Nothing. And most people don't want to be told that because that's the one thing they think that they're doing it actually matters in life and they ain't got nothing else going on. But hey, I'm not here to make you feel good. I'm here to tell you what's real. So accountability, miss me with this word when you're talking about a famous person. You don't have the resources to hold a famous person accountable. All you could do is talk about them on the internet. Other than that you're doing nothing. Next, defenders argue that everyone deserves a full evaluation of their life, acknowledging both positive and negative contributions. I say if you're going to assess somebody's life, yes, you got to talk about everything. You can't just take the pieces that are convenient for you and then leave out the parts that are inconvenient for you. That sounds good, but it doesn't. If we're being logical, rational, and we're being real and we're being objective, you can't do that. We got to talk about everything, not just the pieces that are convenient for you. Some critics, though, they say that certain actions, especially a racist action, these aren't one-time mistakes and they should disproportionately affect how someone is remembered. In other words, people are saying that Hulk Hogan got caught on audio saying the N-word that time, but how many other times did he say the N-word that we don't know about? Answer is we don't know. Do I believe that Hulk Hogan has used the N-word in other conversations in the past or even after that, let's just say before that. Let's definitely say before that. Do I believe that Hulk Hogan used the N-word in private conversations before the audio came out to expose him for using the N-word? Do I believe that was his first time ever doing it? No, I don't think that was the first time he did it. I'm pretty sure Hulk Hogan has thrown out the N-word in private conversations a whole bunch of times that were not caught on tape. Do I believe that? Yes, I do believe that. Does that make me feel like I need to condemn Hulk Hogan? No. Does it make me feel like I need to trash his legacy? No. Does it make me say, well, I don't like him anymore from back in the day as a wrestler because he used the N-word many years later? Also, no. And this is what I'm talking about when I say the virtue signaling. All right, let's just say he did use the N-word. Let's say he did. Let's say some white people who I know, who I shake their hands when I see them, when they're in private conversations behind closed doors in their own homes, they throw around the N-word with the ER on the end all the time. They don't throw it around in my face, but they throw it around behind my back. Let's just say that that's happening. What am I supposed to do about that? What should I do? Should I not be friends with white people under the suspicion that they might be throwing out the N-word? Should I try to read their minds and guess if they're thinking of me as that N-word with the suit on when they see me? What should I do? What am I supposed to do about this? What should I do? Something that you learn as a child, many of you should have learned as a child, is that what other people think of you is not your business. The reason why it's not your business is because you can't read the thoughts of another person. So you don't know what another person's thinking. You can observe another person's words. You can judge a person's actions, but you cannot read another person's thoughts. All you can go off of is you can observe what they say and judge their actions. Actions are higher than words, and words are higher than thoughts. So thoughts don't even exist because you don't know another person's thoughts. You only know what they say, and you can see what they do. Have you ever come across a person who said something and did a different thing? Everybody's come across that. So just because somebody says something doesn't mean that's how they're actually living. And just because you think somebody is thinking something you have no way of proving it. So what another person is thinking or what you think another person is thinking is completely irrelevant because you can't read another person's mind. There's no human on the planet who has the ability to read the thoughts of another person. That doesn't exist, even though a lot of people try to claim that they can. Or they say, well, he said it that one time. He might have said it a whole bunch of other times. I say, okay. And how many times your favorite rapper said it? And where did white people, again, get the idea that it's cool to throw around the N-word to other black people as if it's acceptable? Where'd they get that idea? They didn't get it from other white people. They got it from us. We marketed and promoted this. And or we celebrated the people who were doing the marketing and promoting. Again, look at your favorite rappers. Why are they famous? They're famous because they got fans. Who are their fans? We are. We're their fans. Who are the ones arguing and defending them? Again, if I was to go on the internet and start attacking Kendrick Lamar or Drake or Jay-Z, who would be the people most defending them and coming at me, attacking me for attacking them? Who be attacking me? A bunch of black people. A bunch of black people. They say, well, you're hating, or you're old school, or you're not in touch with the culture, or you're not one of us, or you're just trying to appease white people, or you don't listen to the music, or you're mad because Jay-Z got more money than you got. It will be some nonsense like that. Nobody actually arguing with me on the logic of the conversation, just arguing with me on defending that person who you don't even know from anywhere, just because you're a fan of them, and you're a fan of them because they're famous, and they're famous because they packaged up that N-word and sold it to a bunch of white people for a lot of money. Period. Like, that's what happened. So again, black people getting all indignant over the N-word, any form of the N-word, miss me with all of it. Okay, so some of our observers say drawing Hogan's legacy into racial culture wars diminishes meaningful discourse in favor of outrage. Well, of course it does. Welcome to the internet. That's what the internet is for. The internet is for sensationalizing topics, sensationalizing conversations. If you want to have a logical, rational discussion, the internet does provide a platform for that as well. The challenge with that one is that you're going to have a much smaller audience. If I talk about some rational, logical topic, there'll be much fewer people listening to me than if I talk about some sensational, hot button, emotionally driven topic. The reason I'm talking about Hulk Hogan here today is because of the race angle. The race angle, that's not the reason I'm talking about it. Let me say that over. Because if I was only talking about it because of race angle, then I'd be a race hustler myself, at least on some level. The reason I'm talking about it is because it's a hot button topic that a lot of people have emotional opinions about. Most people don't have a logical opinion about Hulk Hogan. He was a famous wrestler. He was a wrestler, and it was fake wrestling. That's not even real wrestling. It was fake wrestling. Hulk Hogan was essentially an entertainer. And a lot of people know who he is. And because of the N-word audio, a lot of people have an emotional opinion about him. That's why I'm talking about it, because I know it's going to draw a lot of attention. That's why a lot of people are listening to what I'm talking about here. But understand something about me. This is not my full-time job. I'm not talking about things like this. If you go look to my podcast, it's called Work on Your Game. It comes out every single day. You can find it on Apple and Spotify. Let me pull up so y'all can see what it looks like. You pull up my show that I record and listen to every day, called Work on Your Game. My material is all evergreen stuff that's about making you better and improving you as a person. All right, here's my show right here. All right, these are not current events. This is evergreen stuff. What would your clone do? I talk about why violence is a great thing. I do talk about race, but I talk about it in an evergreen way. I talk about the 3 socially accepted black men, why white America does not prop up athletes and entertainers, how service businesses drop the ball on entrepreneurs. That's why we play the games. Should a woman be intimidating, quote unquote? The truth about dominance, why most people can't be trusted with power, the hidden flex of predictability. These are all things that I talk about on my show. So my show is not based on talking about race or even talking about current events. It's about long-term evergreen content and material that will make you more valuable as a person over the next 10 years, not something that's going to get you excited for the next 10 minutes. That's what I do in my full-time business, just so all of you understand. I'm not in the race hustling business, even though if I did get in it, I could do very well. Anyway, advocates insist that symbolic reckoning matters and that public figures should be held up for scrutiny regardless of their broader achievements. This is the argument of the race hustler. This is the race hustler's thesis, is that we need to do symbolic reckonings. And what that means is, even though Hulk Hogan is dead, even though nobody was really talking about Hulk Hogan for the last year, nobody really had anything to say about him other than when he appeared at the Trump event, we need to use his death as a reason to talk about how we're going to try to attack and stain and dismantle the legacy of anybody, regardless of what they did in life, if we can find anything about them that points towards racism. This is the argument of the race hustler. Now, why does the race hustler make this argument? They make this argument because the more they get people to believe that frame, the more relevant the race hustler becomes. That's the hustle. See, the hustle of the race hustler is not really about race. The hustle of the race hustler is to use race because it's a subject that gets a lot of people very emotional and it gets a lot of people triggered, especially black folks, is to get black people triggered and excited about what you said. And because they're triggered and excited about what you say, they're going to keep coming back to you to hear more from you. And when you can show proof of concept of that audience that you have developed because of these things that you do and the skill that you have of triggering people based on emotion, now you can leverage that audience and leverage that notoriety into business opportunities. The reason there's a hustle is because there's business being done off the hustle. See, race hustling is not getting attention on the internet. Race hustling is when you start doing it as a way of generating business. You bring people into your business because you keep finding these racial angles to get people hyped and excited about. And there are several race hustlers who I've already pointed out and called out in the past. And there's a bunch of them still out there active. It's a dying breed right now. They had a nice little run from about 2016 through about 2022. They had a nice little 6-year run. It's kind of dying out now, but there are still some people keeping it on life support. Most of them black people. There's a few white ones too. Now, Hulk Hogan's career supporters emphasized the wrestling industry evolution, citing his role in popularizing the format and mentoring young stars, which he definitely popularized wrestling. He made wrestling what it became. And did he mentor young stars? I'm assuming he did. I don't know. But others argue that influence and entertainment does not negate the need for explicit consequences when harmful language is used. Again, if you notice these con points, these points that the critics of Hulk Hogan make, they're saying the same thing. They're just repackaging it in different ways. This is the problem with being a race hustler. It's actually a good thing about being a race hustler, and the bad thing about being a race hustler is that you're basically saying the same stuff over and over and over again. You just got to find different ways of saying it, and there's no real substance behind the points. All they're doing is making emotional points. Oh, well, we need consequences because you use harmful language. And again, here's the reason why race hustling works so well is because it's much easier to sell people an excuse than it is to sell them accountability. It's very hard to sell accountability. Notice that here's the thing about accountability. Anytime you all hear this word, next time you hear somebody throwing a word out, I want you to notice something. Notice that anyone using the word accountability, 98% of the time, they're talking about how it applies to someone other than themselves. Notice that about the word accountability. Next time you hear somebody use the word accountability, ask yourself, are they talking about holding someone else accountable, or are they talking about holding themselves accountable? Very rarely do you hear a person use the word accountability and they're talking about what they need for themselves. Anytime someone's talking about accountability, they're talking about somebody else. Oh, we got to hold him accountable. We got to hold them accountable. We got to make sure everybody, which is not them, we got to make sure everybody over here is held accountable. Nobody talks about accountability when they're talking to themselves in the mirror. Everybody wants to talk about accountability when they're looking out the window at everyone else. Let's hold them accountable. This is one of the keys to the race hustle. One of the keys to race hustling is everything is pointing a finger at them over what they've done to victimize us. And it's much easier to sell someone on the concept that they're a victim than sell them on the concept of being held accountable. Why is this? Because if I sell you on the concept of being a victim, you don't have to do anything. If I sell you on being a victim, what do you actually have to do? You don't have to do anything. All you got to do is buy the idea, buy into the emotion, and just follow my lead. Again, this is how race hustlers sell books. This is how they get booked for gigs. All you got to do is sell people on the fact that they're victims, and they will follow you like the Pied Piper. Now, if you sell people on accountability, which means what? If I sell you on accountability, what I'm saying to you is that whatever it is that you were supposed to do or that you're responsible for, I'm going to make sure that you are held to account to actually get it done. Now, if you know you're being held accountable by somebody to get something done, what does that mean? It means you got to actually do something. It means you have to actually go to work. You got to actually send those emails. You got to actually make those phone calls. You got to actually knock on those doors. You got to actually do your push-ups. See, if I'm holding you accountable for something, that means you are committed or you are going to be held accountable for work that you are allegedly committed to doing. If I tell you that you're a victim, you don't have to do anything but sit back and wait for somebody to apologize to you and make amends to you over the harm and the damage that has been done to you allegedly. This is why race hustling is such a great business to be in if you can get it. Because all you're doing is selling your fans on sitting back and being treated as victims, which means all your fans are buying into you and they don't even have to do any work, which makes a very easy job for you if you can get them to follow you because they don't have to do anything for you to be successful. All you need is for them to do is follow everything that you said. Now, if you're selling accountability, on the other hand, the problem is everybody who buys the accountability that you're selling has to actually do something now because they're going to be held to account. So if you're selling victimhood, you're going to have 100 customers for every one customer of a person who's selling accountability because it's not as popular of a product. That's why alcohol outsells water. All right, for the most part, snack foods outsell produce. Why? Because there's less effort required. There's less discipline required to use it. So all that being said, folks, let's get into the commentary. You got a question or comment about anything that I've said here, go ahead and leave it in the comments, and we'll get to the comments in one moment. I think we can make through this without a bathroom break. I'm trying to go without bathroom breaks lately. Let's see if we can make it. We'll go about 30 minutes here, 28 minutes to be specific on the clock. If you got something, go ahead and put it in the comments. I don't think I saw anything on Instagram. Ohio J said, my only thing about this is for the black people calling him a racist, and it happened now. He their hero, and they're going to be the same way when Trump passes. It's just selective rage with stuff like this. Yes, well, it's virtue signaling is what it is. It's not even rage. Nobody's actually mad. This is just virtue signaling is what it is. Nobody's actually mad about anything Hulk Hogan did or said. They're just pretending to be mad, because when you pretend to be emotional, you tend to overpower other people's logic. Now, that works on a lot of people. It doesn't work on me, but it does work on a lot of people. So I understand why people do it. All right, if you're on TikTok, you got a comment, go ahead and post it. Please keep the likes up on TikTok. We're at 58,000. This should be 100K day, folks. Get the likes up. Dennis said, wrestling fans have hated Hulk Hogan for years. Okay, well, what do they hate him for? What do he do? User said, usually these people might have been racist when younger, and now he is older. I'm sure he changed. Maybe. I don't follow him like that, so I don't know. Dirty Roger said, are you in the middle of an interview? I don't know what you're talking about. T. McKinley said, good morning from Jersey. Good morning to you. Jameson Lockridge said, it's one incident. It's been multiple incidents by Hogan. Like what? Pro Grass Toucher. Good morning. Wifey Tips. Thank you for the heart. Progress said, we still talking about Hogan. Who gives AF? Let's talk about real issues. Like what? Name a real issue. Ellie said 30 seconds is long enough for a life sentence. So yes, you can. What is that? What do you mean by that? T. McKinley said, how long ago did he make the comment? I heard it came out in 2015, but the comment actually happened years before that. So what I heard was that he actually said it in like 2007, but then the video or the audio didn't come out till like 2015. So that's what I heard. Ira said, yes, you can, because that's his belief, even if he only said it publicly once. What belief? What is his belief? Jameson said, no, I already asked that. Dirty Roger said, you're not a Hulkamaniac. Well, I don't watch wrestling. I stopped watching wrestling when I was like 10 years old. But when I was watching, I was a fan of Hulk Hogan. Jansen said, but you can judge a person's character by what he said. Well, it depends on what they said. Depends on what they said. It depends on the context of in which they said it. And it also depends on how much weight you put onto the word that they said. So on its surface, as a black and white point, Jensen, I say, no, this is not true. You cannot judge a person's character by what they say unless you have all that other information. LA said, people always want to feign neutrality. You can absolutely fault a person for their shortcomings. Well, what people are you referring to feigning neutrality? And you say you can fault the person for their shortcomings. Again, it depends on the context. What person, what shortcoming, and how do you judge that as a shortcoming? So without the context, no, you can't. And that all sounds good. Again, LA, one thing I want to point out to you, I pointed this out earlier. It all sounds good when you're talking about everybody else. All these things sound good. All these judgments that you are putting out there sound good when it's somebody else being judged. I think the good book says, paraphrasing, judge not lest you be judged first. And if you're going to judge other people, you got to start with the person in the mirror. And you should always be holding yourself to a higher account than you hold anybody else. If you hold anybody else to a higher standard than you hold yourself, then I don't even know why you're speaking. T said, once you become a millionaire or successful, people will start checking for you. Well, just once you become notable in a space, you don't have to be a millionaire. And I don't know what you mean by successful, but just once you become notable, meaning people know who you are, and you don't have to be notable to the whole world. Hulk Hogan was pretty known by everybody, even if you didn't follow wrestling, but you could be a famous chiropractor and everybody in chiropractic knows who you are. That alone is enough for notoriety. Daniel says, not a good comparison at all. What's not a good comparison? Traditional said they took one thing the man said and ran with it. Again, this is it's virtue signaling is what it is. So TikTok's most hated said, why does that matter? Why does what matter? Some of y'all referring to things I don't know what you're talking about. Hello, Dark Light said, then get mad if somebody sings it, even if a song if you're the wrong color. Yes, that happens too. You just said, what about the whites only town being built? I might talk about that tomorrow. I might get into that. I'm going to take that down as a note because I did hear about it. Who was talking about it? I think I heard it on one of the episodes of Whitlock. I think Whitlock show was talking about it a little bit, but I might talk about that. Actually, I'll probably talk about it, but I don't know when I'm going to talk about it. So don't hold me to that for tomorrow. We'll see. Kyle Forloka, who's this Angstrom person you're talking about? So I see some of you, if I'm not responding to comments in real time, some of you look to be getting annoyed. But I respond to comments after I get through the content. Then I start from oldest to newest. So if I'm not reading your comment at the moment you post it, that's the way it works over here. Lee said, thank you. The word would be dead if we weren't forced to hear it every day. Pretty much. Charles Lee said, my parents taught us to be respectful of everyone, no matter what race or color. Well, I think every person would say that about their parents, generally. Pretty Pleasant said, I appreciate your dialogue. Thank you. Please keep liking and live on TikTok, please. We're at 64K. Let's get to 70. Charles said, don't use race to get a better chance at jobs or anything else. Well, Charles Lee, you got to use what you got to get what you want. Now, if somebody calls me and says, Dre, we want a speaker for our conference, but we decided because the last 10 years we had white guys. This year we want a black guy, so we want to book you. What's your fee? I will let them use race as an excuse to give me my money. So I get what you're saying, Charles. I'm not going to go out and say, hey, I need a black guy. But if that's their reason, I'm not going to stop them. Business is still business. 173 said, that word does not mean anything anymore. Too much use of it has lost its power. No, that's not true. Depends on who used it. If a white person walks to a room full of black people and says the N-word, it means a whole lot. It's going to get a ton of response. Now, black people using it with each other tends to, we are desensitized, as I said about myself. But it depends on who used it. Pro Grass Toucher says, because Trump doesn't drink. No, that's why you think it is? Maybe. American, thank you for the share. Troy G. Robinson, thank you. Sangrease Creations, thank you for the rose. Pretty Pleasant. So I'm so happy to hear this from an obviously articulate, smart, and logical black man. Thank you. Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you. Troy G. Robinson said, double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. All right, I like that. Progress said, to be fair, the problem is people look down on black culture but still buy it. Well, it's interesting. I am black, so I don't know what people you're talking about. Traditional said, you do become desensitized. That is very true. Street Thur, I couldn't see the rest of your name. Thanks for the rose. Charles Lee said, a very educated dude. What a fresh conversationalist. Thank you. Progress said, can we talk about real issues now already? Who cares about Hogan? Well, depending on who you ask, this is a real issue. There's a bunch of race hustlers who get really excited about this stuff. And we can't ignore what the race hustlers are doing because they're having an effect on people. So they do need to be addressed. But I usually do one topic per day. So Hulk Hogan's the topic today. 173 said, rappers make money off white executives to say the word. How ironic. Well, it's actually the other way around. White executives make money off rappers to say the word. Rappers are not making money off white executives. White executives make most of the money and the rappers get some of the money. So there is the other way around. Woody the Woodpecker said, intention matters. Yes, it does. Mimi said, Hulk is dead. LOL. Yeah, we know. Zay said, what a wild perspective. Hogan used it in a way that views us as subhuman. Nah, I don't know about all that. Who's us? I don't take one person throwing out the N-word to mean that they're talking about every black person on the planet. And I damn sure don't take it as a personal affront myself just because some white person said the N-word. What's it got to do with me? He wasn't talking about me personally. And no, I don't put myself in a big group with all black people on every subject. Definitely not a subject like this one. So just because black people are all black doesn't mean we all think the same and doesn't mean we all fit in the same boat on anything. Fly Father said, the people you know don't uphold the standard. What standard are you talking about? Jaina said, bull. What are you challenging? Sean Pass said, it's how you use it. Yes, it is how you use it. And at the same time, if we want to get indignant about the word, nobody should use it. And you should hold everybody accountable. but there's no black person doing it. Well, not a lot of well-known black people doing it. And if they are, they don't draw a lot of attention because there's a bunch of people who are invested in making sure that doesn't happen. Pretty said, if everyone was unforgiven for something they have said unmaliciously, nobody was speaking. Yeah, exactly. ATL says, so when your mama calls you a nickname, that means everyone else can call you that nickname. I thought you might be straw manning here, but actually this is not a straw man. This is a fair question, generally. And the answer is generally some people will simply because they saw you respond to it. ATL, that's my answer to your question. If your mom has a nickname for you and she calls you that nickname in front of other people and you keep responding to that nickname from your mom, eventually somebody else is going to call you by that nickname because they saw you respond to it. That's how it works. People call you what you respond to. Grand brother said, Dre all day. I've been watching since basketball. I'm turning 30 today. Much love. Oh, happy birthday, grand brother. Glad you found your way back around. Cosmically said, I ain't buying that, man, because you say society is normalizing it, yet just said if it randomly happened that a white guy said it to you around the street, you'd notice. So it's different then. Let me make sure I'm catching that. You said society is normalizing it. No, not society. Black people have normalized it, not society. Black people have normalized the N-word. And at the same time, if a white person said the N-word to me, yes, I'm going to respond to that. If a black person said the N-word to me, I'll respond to that too. It just depends on the context. The context would matter a ton. But I would notice it. I would notice the word more coming out the mouth of a white person than I would a black person. And what are you not buying though? So you said it's different. Yeah, it's different. And that doesn't mean that any point that I made is undone by our agreement that is different. Appreciate you, grand brother. Robin said, this is not a game. What does that mean, Robin? What are you referring to? 173 said, Al Sharpton is a perfect example of a race hustler. Al Sharpton is the godfather of race hustling. Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson invented race hustling. Zay said, your perspective is extremely flawed. Okay, well, tell me what I got wrong. Don't be passive aggressive. Crump, perfect example of a race hustler. Crump is a race hustler. Yes, he's a race hustling lawyer. Zay said, no damage was done, but that doesn't mean we had to give a F about him passing either. No, nobody has to. But if you choose to, you also are allowed to do that. So I was a fan of Hulk Hogan, the wrestler. So when he passed, I said that guy was a legend in wrestling. Now, if you don't care at all, you got a right to that too. Life says, hurt feelings are self-inflicted. You get there all your own. Fair enough. 173 said Hillary Clinton. No, she's a little different type of race hustler. She's white. She's different. Fruit Up said, so disregard verbal abuse. So this is a straw man by Fruit Up. She said, or he or she, whoever this is. Straw man of the day goes to Fruit Up. Straw man is a word we give out every day when someone takes something that I say, they rephrase it into something that I didn't say, and then they represent it and argue against the weaker version of what I said. So is usually a tell for the straw man. If you start your comment with so, that often means you're about to rephrase somebody's words. Be careful, especially if the person is a more clear at articulating their thoughts than you are. So Fruit Up said, disregard verbal abuse. First of all, verbal abuse is not even something that I don't even recognize the concept of verbal abuse. Now, can somebody be talking trash to you and saying negative things about you? Yes. But I don't know if there's anything anybody could say to me that I would take as verbal abuse. I would just take it as like somebody talking shit. I'm a professional shit talker. So I'm fine with somebody who wants to, you want to play that game? I can play that game probably better than them. And as far as disregarding it, well, you could disregard it if you want to, but that's not what I said. So that's why it's a straw man. So you're reframing what I said into something that you said. The problem is I'm better at articulating my thoughts than you are. So when you try to rephrase my words, you're always going to come up with a straw man. Bay said, word can uplift or kill. The words you're using now are impactful. I don't know if words can kill, but they can uplift. I agree with that one. 173 said, Harris is a race hustler. A little bit. Politicians are a little bit different. They kind of got to play the game. Cosmically said, that ain't true. Everyone has feelings and emotions. People get upset from words. That's normal. I didn't say that. I didn't say that wasn't a thing. You're arguing against something that I didn't say. Cosmically, you get a straw man for that. Everyone has feelings, emotions. People get upset from words. That's normal. I didn't say it wasn't normal. I didn't say people don't get upset from words. I didn't say people don't have feelings and emotions. You're arguing against something that I didn't say. So you get straw man of the day number 2. Traditional said you cannot say anything today. For the most part, depends on who you are and it depends on who you're talking to. Kim, thank you for the follow. 173 Jasmine Crockett. No, politicians don't count as race hustlers for the most part. They can do race hustling, but to call them just full on race hustlers is not fair because they got to play a certain game when you're a politician in America. So no, they don't count. Man of Steel said, I don't like that particular word. However, some individuals really need to grow thicker skin. Yes, exactly. Zay said, this is performative rage baiting. Who's rage am I baiting? Who's raging right now based on anything that I'm saying? I don't think anybody. Is anybody raging right now? AJN said Ryan Clark is the biggest virtue signal guy. He's not the biggest. He has taken up the practice. He does it consistently. I don't know if he's the biggest though. AJ Ward said having a fame trophy covered in poop is still a poop trophy. What does that even mean? AJ, I'm not understanding what you're referring to here. Soy Latina, thank you for the follow. Justno said, that's right, no one held Diddy accountable. Well, the court did. The court held Diddy accountable, but everyday people talking on social media is not holding somebody accountable. But a lot of people like to think they're holding someone accountable because they're talking about it on the internet. Bay Beaster. Big Boy OG, thanks for the follow. Bay Beaster said, with black culture, things run deep, and we as Americans can't grow because of attitudes like Hogan. Bay Beaster, where did you learn this nonsense? What liberal university did you go to school at that taught you this nonsense that you just posted in my comments? So let me say what Bay Beaster said again. With black culture, things run deep. I don't know what that means, first of all. Then they said, we as Americans can't grow. All right, that's nonsense frame right there. We can't grow because, so now you're about to blame something other than yourself, because of attitudes like Hogan. Or first of all, Hulk Hogan's dead. So now you have no excuse for not growing then, right? If you said we can't grow because of attitudes like Hogan, Hogan's dead. Now, attitude, you're talking about a way of thinking. An attitude is a way of thinking. Problem with blaming things on attitudes is that the only attitude you can blame is your own because you don't know another person's attitude because you can't read another person's thoughts. So this is a nonsense excuse frame. Bay Beaster, I'm assuming that you're black because you said with black culture, things run deep. The problem with this frame, Bay Beaster, and I'm sure you learned this from some losers in your world, whether they were a teacher, whether it was a family member or was a friend or some clown you follow on the internet, that the attitude of another person has some tangible impact on your behavior, your advancement, and your personal growth. I apologize on the behalf of whatever loser taught you this nonsense, but you need to unlearn that as quickly as possible because that's the very thing holding you back. As long as you think the way somebody else thinks is holding you back, you're the thing holding you back. And again, I apologize on behalf of whoever miseducated you to think that that's actually true to the point that you would actually write that down in these comments. It's very unfortunate. Steve Poole, thanks for the follow. Lonisha Shelton said, if you know they use it, yes. What are you saying yes to? Shar said, not all, just not be friends with those specific people. Okay, fine. Nelson said, no, but you should distance yourself from those people if you have suspicions. Suspicions of what? And where do you get a suspicion from? American, thank you for the rose. K-Lo, good morning. DJ Magic Man said, know what you don't know don't hurt you. No? Okay, fair enough. Heather said, thank you. It doesn't matter. I don't use it because it's derogatory. Yes, fair enough. Well, Heck said, if you realize how little people think about you, it wouldn't matter what they think. Am I correct? Baybeaster says, your reputation goes with your actions. That's most important. Never mind what people think. Well, your reputation goes with your actions, and that matters more when you're a known figure. Most people are not known figures. So again, it's very easy to cast judgment on a known person because everybody knows who they are and everybody can look at their whole life, or at least everything we know about it. Whereas the person that's casting the judgment, nobody knows anything about your life or cares to have an opinion. So it's very easy to do it when you're the one throwing the stones, but nobody's throwing any at you. Whole different ballgame when you're on the other side of that equation. AJN said, I'm white and I've cut people off for how they talk about black people, judge people on character. Fair enough, but how do we know you're even telling the truth? You might be virtue signaling yourself right now. But we'll take your word for it. Okay. AJ said, racist White people come from their parents, not rap songs. Not always. I would disagree with that. I think it can come from both. Tabitha, thanks for the follow. Get the likes up, folks. We're at 74K. Can we get to 100K in the next 9 minutes, please? Tony McAllister, thanks for the follow. Bay Beaster said the goal is to get viewers, which equals money. No, it doesn't. Viewers does not equal money. So, Bay Beaster, you've been taught some very bad ideas. I'm hoping you're under the age of 25 saying these things, because that means you got time to actually learn things that are true. If you're over 25, I'm very concerned. Viewers do not equal money. Social media metrics do not equal money. Social media metrics equal social media metrics. Money equals money. I'm an entrepreneur. I understand very well. Money equals money. Viewers do not equal money. If I was getting paid based on the number of people that viewed this, then that means by the end of this live, according to TikTok's stats today, I have received a total of 1,900 views on this live stream here today. 1,900. And right now is 98 people watching this live. If viewers equal money, then that means TikTok should be depositing $1,900 into my account today, because that's how many people watch this live, metaphorically speaking. But that's not the case. So let's keep getting the likes up, folks. We're at 75,000. Step Ahead said, people have no degree, no skills, no business, nor 1,000 in savings, yet fight for celebrities. Yes, we've been conditioned that. That's been conditioned into us, and black people have bought into it more than any other group. Christopher Barker said, people need to learn to think for themselves. Education is the key to this. Well, the proper type of education, not education like the system that we have in America. But if you mean education just as a concept, yes. But the system that we have is not educational. DJ Magic Man said, dude, you need have come up in the 60s. What does that mean? Bindia Mila. I don't know what that says. And white liberals get triggered. Well, black people get triggered too. David Johnson said, what you say and do in your past is your legacy. Yes, when people care about your past. When people care about your past and they know it up and they can dig it up, then it becomes your legacy. What if nobody knows who you are? That's not your legacy. So again, it only matters when you're famous. If you're not famous, then what you did in your past doesn't matter to anybody because nobody knows. But heck said, who determines which language is harmful? Well, it's on a case-by-case basis. That's the tricky thing about calling something harmful, is that it's on a case-by-case basis. Binding the... I can't pronounce that name. I don't know what that says. Traditional said, I started watching wrestling because of Hulk. I don't know why I started watching, but I know I was watching. DJ Magic said, you are brainwashed and not making sense. Okay, well, tell me what I got wrong. If I got something wrong, don't just leave a comment saying that I'm wrong or alluding to you disagreeing. Say exactly what you disagree with. Say it with your chest. Don't be passive here. I don't respect passivity in men. So if you disagree with something that I said, then say exactly what you're disagreeing with. Zeus, thanks for the follow. Eric BB said, thanks for talking about personal accountability. It's perspective missing from the conversation. Well, nobody wants to talk about personal accountability because then they would have to stop talking about everybody else. Someone was asking earlier, why are we talking about this Hulk Hogan conversation? Because everybody has an opinion. And see, if you keep the conversation around something that does not require people to do anything, they will stay in the conversation because now they can escape from having to actually do something. Having to actually do something requires effort. Chef said, they'll party for a week when Trump passes. I don't think people know how badly he is hated. Okay. But when you get done partying, you still got to get back to living your actual life. So party if you want. And I see people saying stuff like that. People say that as if they're guaranteed to be alive when he passes. What if you pass first? Should he party? AJ said, Hulk says stuff. Yeah, no, that was covered earlier in the live. Chef said, when GWB passes, it'll be minor in comparison. Okay. And? Michelle, good morning. Tron Black said, you got to have a day job. I don't know what you're referring to. AJ said, I told you about it on Friday, the all white town. Well, AJ, you didn't tell me about it. I have internet access. I don't get my news from you. Slit282 said, Hulk was awesome. Everyone had faults. What about separate the person from the art? Well, people don't do that anymore. Slit282. Are you familiar with social media? Social media has completely erased that line. It doesn't matter anymore. Trying Black said race hustlers is hilarious. Yeah, I've been talking about race hustlers for like 7 years now. I didn't come up with the term. I wish I did. But as soon as I heard it, I immediately understood it. So now I've been using it a lot. But Heck said, people say things in anger and often regret it. Think before you speak. Yeah, sounds good. When you're angry, you don't have time to think. Christopher Barker said, color is not racist. Ignorance is racist. Educated people tend to be not racist. Well, it depends on what you mean by racist. Also depends on what you mean by educated. So I'm going to have to question that comment. And that comment has some very subjective terms in it. AJ said, I don't know how the word can be out of context if he stated he was racist. I don't know what you're talking about because that was not talked about here today. So you're responding to something that I didn't say. KG, thanks for the follow. Everybody tap the screen. Traditional, thanks for letting me know, reminding me. Get the likes up, folks. Get the 85,000 likes. I'll take some more comments. We're at 79,000. Get the 85,000 likes. I'll take more comments. Until then, get my likes up. Kevin Samuels' voice. Get my likes up. Get the likes up, folks. We need 85,000 for me to keep going on the commentary. This is Kevin Samuels time here. I don't have any music that I can play. Last time I played some music on TikTok, they gave me a warning and said, don't play music. They said you can't play. It was something that they said. You can't play already published content or something like that. I played my own video and they said you can't do it. So I played video from my own content, my own podcast, my own YouTube video. They said you can't do that. So TikTok, somebody got to give me the rules on TikTok, what I can play during a live stream. I guess the answer is nothing. So I don't want to take a risk again. So I haven't played anything since then. We're at 81,000 likes, folks. So we need, what is that, 3,000 more, a little bit over 3,000 more. Get the likes up, folks. Tap the screen, get the likes up. We got 94 people in here. If y'all just tap the screen, if everybody taps the screen for like 30 seconds, we can get to 85,000 pretty quickly. We're at 82,000. While I'm waiting for y'all to tap the screen, I will tell everybody I do these live streams Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern. So if you like this live, come back tomorrow and we'll see what the topic is. It depends on what's happening. I usually pick a current event. So something that's current, that's happening, something that's happening in the news is usually what I talk about. My full-time business is my company, Work on Your Game Incorporated. Please keep liking the live, folks, to get to 85,000 likes. What we do is we have a system, a licensed system, where we take performance, discipline, accountability. We have systematized those. We can install that in your team and your business for an individual person or for a group. Any business that is performance-based. So entrepreneurs, salespeople is a big one. Anywhere where you have people who need to perform and they're measured by performance, our programs help that. So go to workonyourgameuniversity.com or any of the links you see in my profiles, and we can get to helping you. Now we're at 85,000 likes. Let's see what we got else. What else we got in the comments here? Where was I? Lost my spot. Terry Prince, thanks for the follow. Jody CZ, thanks for the follow. Will Griffin said, you do this boring SHIT. I don't want to curse too much in here. 24/7, no matter how minimal the finances, you don't do this for free. I don't do this for money. Will Griffin, you probably need to take a business lesson so you can understand something. If I wanted to monetize the time from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, I would not be doing live streams on any of these platforms. And if I was doing live streams and the only goal was to make money, I wouldn't be talking as logically and objectively as I am. I would be talking much more sensationally, much more emotionally, and I'd probably be doing something that would be more entertainment driven rather than logic and information driven than what I'm doing. If all I cared about was making sure I monetized this hour and a half, I'd be doing a whole lot different things than what I'm doing right now. So what you're saying, Will, is incorrect. You don't know as much about business as you think you do. And you don't know as much about social media as you think you do. But I read your comment. Sharon, thank you. Call Me Steve said, I don't know what you're referring to. Brielle, good morning. Terry Prince said, the stories that we tell ourselves create the experiences that we have. You're speaking truth. Well, thank you. Sharon said, not necessarily. What are you responding to? D. Morales said, you're corrupt when you're angry, no time to think. Yes, most of the time. Now, sometimes when you're angry, you do get time to think, but it depends on what you're angry about. It depends on the moment. Slit said, gone. Kevin Samuels is the man. Gone too soon. Yeah, shout out to Kevin Samuels. Vivian said, TikTok is fooling themselves. We look forward to your videos, knowledgeable and impartial. Thank you. Brielle said, this is not boring. Well, thank you. Lee said, call me. What's up, Lee? I just called you. Brielle, good morning. So I'll do these lives, as I said, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. I'll wait a moment if anybody has any additional comments. We might talk about the Joe Biden auto pin situation. The Joe Biden auto pin. I was going to talk about that this morning, but then I decided, no, let's talk about this Hulk Hogan thing. So I pushed the auto pin off. So we may talk about Joe Biden's auto pin and people talking about, was Joe Biden actually doing work at the end of his administration, or was he just auto pin signing stuff? We might talk about Joe Biden's doctor who refused to testify. Donald Trump signing some legislation about homelessness. I saw that this past weekend on the 24th, which was Thursday. He signed an executive order about ending crime and disorder in America's streets. So some people were trying to make it seem like he was doing bad things against homeless people. And it's interesting how people frame things. If you don't have the information, you'll see people talk about Trump. People who like him make it sound like what he did was great. The people who don't like him take the exact same thing that he did and make it sound like he's ending the world as we know it. And both of them are lying. And then when I go look up what actually happened, I'm like, they both are like completely changing the story. It's very interesting. So I might talk about that one. All of these are possibilities. And as I said, everything goes off of current events. So if something happens today, that might be the topic tomorrow. So we don't know yet. So I'm just looking at what's trending right now. I might not talk about any of these things, but you never know. And I browse and just see what people are talking about on social media, even though I know a lot of them are conflating. They're not conflating, but changing the story to make it sound something other than what it is. Brown Skin Queen, good morning. Classy E said, not what's up, me. I just called you, LOL. What does that even mean? You just called me? Like you called my phone? I don't have a missed call from you. Who is this person? Classy E, do I have a missed call from you? Vivian said, I want to know more about the auto pen and how that could affect the pardons he gave. Yeah, I heard people talking about that. I think it would take extreme circumstances to undo those pardons. I don't think Trump wants to go there, even though he always. We will talk about it in general, the general concept. TX family said, yeah, y'all want to talk about the auto pen? Okay, I almost talked about it today. I just pushed it off for the Hulk Hogan. Bruce said, topic potential, latest tariff deals. Maybe. That might be a little bit too inside baseball, as we said. Inside baseball means when you get a little bit too deep in the context, it kind of goes over people's heads, Bruce. So I tend to pick topics that are surface level enough that the everyday person knows about it and they can follow. But you get into topics that are a little bit too deep, it kind of, people don't quite get it. So that even last week, I did the one with Tulsi Gabbard talking about Obama and the Steele dossier and the Mueller report and all that stuff with the R country interfering in the election, allegedly. That one was a little bit too deep. It was a little bit too deep for people as far as my perception of the audience response. Daniel said maybe the U.S. and EU trade deal, too inside baseball. Too inside baseball. Brown Skin said, I can't with you. Literally had me laughing with the way you read these comments. Well, I'm just reading what they said. Classy E said, you spoke on someone's comment. Yeah, that's what it said. So Christopher Barker said, talk about the kid who got punched in Florida. Was that racism? What kid got punched? A lot of people get punched every day. That's not a good enough story. Somebody getting punched ain't a story. And it depends on who it is, who got punched and why they got punched. But I don't even know what you're talking about. So usually I try to pick something that generally most of you would have recall. So this is how I pick the topics, folks. I try to pick something that you have recall as to what it is. So when I mentioned the auto pen, a bunch of you said, yes, talk about the auto pen. So all of you know that that's the thing. So there's recall. The recall is that you already know about it or you heard about it and you want to talk more about it. It's different when I pick a topic that maybe you didn't even know was happening. And now I got to inform you of the topic in and of itself. Hulk Hogan, all of you knew he died. Most of you knew he died. If you have the internet, you probably know. So something that happens with Donald Trump, that's usually a good topic because everybody knows about whatever Donald Trump's doing. It all gets reported on. Now, if you're pulling a topic that people don't even know it happened, that's a different story. So Tulsi Gabbard and those folks, if they try to take Obama to court and make him testify, all of you are going to know about that. I will almost certainly talk about that. Auto pen is definitely coming simply because I know a bunch of you have recall. So that's one of the ways, one of the criteria that I use when I'm picking topics. Is it something that people already know? So the Diddy case was great for me because everybody had an opinion on Diddy cases. Everybody knows who Diddy is. So if you go a little bit too deep on topics that people don't know about, then they can't quite follow it because they didn't show up with a view of the circumstance already. Doesn't mean it's impossible, but it's also not always the best topic. So there's an art to this, picking the topics. So with all that said, we'll wrap this one up, folks. We're going a little bit over time. We got 90,000 likes, not quite 100. Tomorrow, we're going to make sure we get to 100, depending on what the topic is. Certain topics are better than others. But we will be here Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. If you like this one, come back tomorrow. You want to work with me directly, get into our coaching programs. We have courses. We also have enterprise. So if you have a team or you work in a company where there's a business team, performance team that can use our help, just go to the link in my profile. I'm on 7 different platforms right now. So whichever one you're on, just go to the link in my profile or the pinned comment, and you'll see places where you can learn more about working with us. This replay to this live will be on YouTube. You can get the replay on my YouTube channel. That link is in my profile on TikTok, or just go on YouTube and look me up. I got 2 YouTube channels with a bunch of videos in them. So just look up my YouTube. You'll find it. You can go to workonyourgame.live to get links to Dre GPT. That's my 24/7 chatbot. The Circle coaching program where you get into our world. Links to my books that you can get for free. Like The Third Day, that book right there. Sales Discipline System, that book right there. And we got a bunch of other books you can get for free at workonyourgame.live. And I will see you all tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern. Thank you, everybody, for your engagement. Thanks to the moderators. I'll see y'all tomorrow morning. We are out of here. Work on your game.